Kazuya is running in a certain direction, probably toward rejection, but he doesn't care anymore. He knows it will hurt, it will break him. A part of him wishes he never rented Chizuru in the first place. Yet even with all those regrets, he still shows up to meet her. It's October 2nd and the weather feels stuck between summer and fall. The heat lingers. Kazuya wakes up, reaches for his phone, and realizes his boxers are uncomfortably tight. While couples everywhere start planning for Halloween, he hides under his blanket, laptop in front of him, earphones in, trying to relieve his frustration. The trash can beside his bed is already full of used tissues, but nothing really helps. No matter what he does, the tension builds again and again. Alone in his room, lying in bed, he stares at the ceiling. He's tired of this cycle. More than anything, Kazuya just wants a girlfriend. Classes resume today, so Kazuya walks to school like usual, surrounded by conversations about romance and love. Suddenly, an unfamiliar face calls out to him on the street. At first, Kazuya doesn't recognize the guy, but it turns out to be Kurabayashi, now almost unrecognizable with how tanned he is. Apparently, he went to the beach 5 times during the summer break. Kazuya can't help but snap at him, telling him to learn some restraint. But deep down, it's envy. Kurabayashi had fun during his summer break, while Kazuya spent his break working hard. Their conversation soon shifts to Kibi, who surprisingly skipped the very first day of class. As they walk, familiar faces begin to pass by, couples holding hands, laughing, and chatting with each other. Kazuya can't hide his frustration anymore. For some reason, after every summer break, new couples seem to pop up everywhere. He even spots Shinbo, one of Chizuru's friends, walking nearby. He worries there might be leaks about his arrangement with Chizuru, but convinces himself Shinbo wouldn't spill anything. Kurabayashi brings up Chizuru, but Kazuya quickly brushes it off, saying it's a long story they should save for another time. As if things couldn't get any worse, Iemori suddenly shows up out of nowhere, calling him master. Kazuya panics, assuming she and Kurabayashi haven't met, but Kurabayashi greets her casually. Turns out one of Iemori's friends is clubmates with Kurabayashi, and they even live next door to each other. Kurabayashi, now confused, asks why she calls Kazuya master. Neither of them gives a clear answer, and they just take a photo together instead. Kazuya, now even more anxious, starts overthinking the possibilities of what could happen now that the two know each other. Thinking about it, everything starts to make sense. It's already been a year and a half since Kazuya first rented Chizuru as a girlfriend. Naturally, people live their own lives and are bound to cross paths, but seeing Iemori and Kurabayashi talk so closely makes Kazuya uneasy. Everything feels like it's moving too fast, and he's unsure if they can keep things as they are. Later that day, Kazuya returns to Karaoke Village, where he's greeted by Ruka, dressed in a maid uniform. It's a seasonal costume exclusive to the store. Without warning, she pulls in close and proudly tells him to enjoy the view of his girlfriend in a maid outfit. Kazuya panics, worried their boss might catch them. Still, seeing Ruka like this stirs something special inside him. However, their moment is cut short when the boss walks in and orders Kazuya to get back to work, reminding him he already received an advance payment. Ruka, confused, asks why he needed the advance, and although hesitant, Kazuya eventually opens up. He explains that he rented Chizuru to help cheer her up. Ruka trusts that nothing strange happened between them, which makes Kazuya feel like he can be honest with her. But just when he thinks Ruka is fine with everything, she suddenly claps her hands and declares she's done holding back. She only went easy on Chizuru because of her grandmother, but now she has no intention of letting her have Kazuya. Ruka steps in closer, pressing up against him, and suggests they go on a trip together, since Kazuya and Chizuru had their own filming trip. Even if it was just a setup, Ruka insists she should have a chance too. She even mentions going to a hot spring, flustering Kazuya completely. At that same time, Chizuru is just hanging out on her veranda, drinking coffee while recalling what happened between her and Kazuya. Kazuya quickly disagrees with Ruka's idea of going to a hot spring together. Even though he's been trying to fulfill his role as her boyfriend, Ruka argues it's not enough, especially since he spent so much time with Chizuru. Still, the fact that Ruka is a minor makes the suggestion clearly inappropriate. When Ruka brings up her emotional needs, Kazuya is confused at first. But as she pulls him into a hug and lets him pat her head, he becomes hyper-aware of her presence, especially with the dim karaoke lights making the moment even more intense. Ruka insists that Kazuya should be more considerate without needing to be told. Not wanting her to stay upset and feeling guilty about the Chizuru situation, Kazuya proposes going somewhere else instead, Hizamatsu, a local bathhouse near his apartment. But since it's close and ordinary, it wouldn't really count as a full trip. After thinking it over, Ruka reluctantly agrees. But before letting him go, she asks for another hug, which once again leaves Kazuya flustered and uncomfortable. The next day, Kazuya is already at the bathhouse, soaking in the public hot bath. He isn't sure if Ruka would be okay with it, but since they couldn't go to an actual hot spring, this will have to do. He notices a child nearby crying, and for some reason, it makes him think of Chizuru. She isn't as down as she used to be, but he can't help but worry if she still cries in secret. He wishes she would smile more. Kazuya realizes he's been thinking about her without even noticing, and he knows it's wrong. Later that day, he meets up with Ruka, who arrives in a floral yukata with a flower clipped in her hair. She looks adorable, so much so that Kazuya can't look her in the eye. Still, he thinks the outfit is a bit too fancy for a simple bathhouse near his apartment. But Ruka explains she really wanted to wear that outfit, which she specifically bought for a hot spring date. While walking, Ruka tries to create a romantic scenario in her head, but Kazuya ruins it with his usual awkwardness. She gently explains how a man should treat a woman, but even that feels too complicated for him. Suddenly, his mind drifts to Chizuru again. He shakes the thought off, telling himself it's wrong. Then Ruka sneezes. Kazuya looks at her, worried she might catch a cold, so he quietly wraps his jacket around her. Ruka smiles and taps his head, telling him he passed her test. She runs happily up the stairs while Kazuya stands still, lost in thought. Ruka is too kind, too good for him, and yet his heart belongs to someone else. Deep down, he knows he's in love with Chizuru. Back home, Kazuya, overwhelmed, forgets he already took a bath and sinks into the tub again. He thinks about how someone like Ruka likes him, yet he doesn't know how Chizuru truly feels. Then his phone lights up. Chizuru's name appears. She's asking if he has free time on the weekend. Kazuya freezes and screams in shock and joy. He quickly covers his mouth, heart racing. He stares at the message, unable to believe it, yet he doesn't want to assume anything just yet. Kazuya lies in bed, staring at his calendar. Both Saturday and Sunday are already booked, but none of that matters. He's willing to drop everything just to meet Chizuru. Still, he can't stop wondering why she wants to see him. The thought alone makes him restless. He struggles with how to reply. Should he play it cool or sound excited? Eventually, he responds with a casual message, then immediately loses his mind over it. To his surprise, Chizuru replies with a time and date. He still doesn't know what they're going to do, but that doesn't stop the excitement building inside him. A moment later, she sends a location, suggesting they meet there for at least half an hour. Even if it's short, Kazuya is already on cloud 9. Lying in bed, Kazuya imagines Chizuru waiting for him in a cute dress. In his fantasy, he plays it cool, asks her why she wanted to meet, then confesses his feelings. They hug and everything turns out perfectly. When Saturday finally arrives, the day of their scheduled meeting, Kazuya walks toward the location already feeling regret. He barely got 4 hours of sleep from overthinking and excitement. As he walks, he wonders why Chizuru suddenly wanted to meet. Maybe it's about the hug. His mind races with possibilities, especially how she might react if he confesses. Then he spots her, standing nearby in just a simple jacket and jeans, nothing like what he had imagined. Still, his heart skips a beat. It's real. He wasn't pranked. She's actually here. Chizuru leads him toward a nearby cafe, and he follows her without question, secretly admiring her. Even in casual clothes, she looks amazing to him. As they walk, Kazuya can't stop thinking about what he once told Chizuru, that she's his ideal girl. The memory makes him nervous all over again. At the cafe, Chizuru orders hot coffee and Kazuya copies her order without much thought. Her beauty stands out effortlessly. Even the guys standing behind them notice her and comment on how lucky Kazuya is to be on a date with her. Hearing that, a drop of sweat runs down Kazuya's face. He wouldn't call this a date, but what else could it be? Neighbors don't usually meet up at a cafe alone. Then Chizuru suddenly brings up Ruka, asking about their relationship. Kazuya freezes, unsure how to answer. Even after everything that's happened, he knows deep down he doesn't have feelings for Ruka. If anything, the one he truly loves is Chizuru. After that talk, an awkward silence falls between them, and Kazuya almost loses his mind trying to figure out what to say, think, or do. He worries he might have said something wrong. It doesn't make sense to him. Why would Chizuru set a time and place to meet just to ask about Ruka? There must be another reason, but he still doesn't know what it is. And if that really was the only reason, maybe she's starting to think seriously about dating him for real. Kazuya glances at Chizuru and notices something is off. She quietly stirs her coffee, then pulls out an envelope from her bag. It's money. She wants to pay Kazuya back and tells him she's already paid the agency in full. During their time together, Kazuya had opened up so much that she couldn't keep hiding things. She admits that everything she did wasn't professional at all. However, Kazuya suddenly rises from his seat and accidentally blurts out a curse, eager to prove Chizuru wrong. Even in her moment of vulnerability, she was still the perfect girlfriend that night, still professional. If anything, it was he who kept crossing a line. He always wanted to do something for her, but never knew what, so it was his choice to help her. Realizing he's raised his voice, Chizuru quickly tells him to calm down as the other customers start to stare, but then she smiles and drops her sad girl act. She admits she might be a little weak, but she expected him to say something like that. With a small smirk, she snatches the envelope back and puts it away. When they pay the bill, Chizuru insists on covering everything. It's the least she can do for him. Not more cheerful, she laughs and chats like usual, and for a moment, Kazuya forgets how sad she looked during their last meeting. But deep inside, he still remembers how her emotions poured out. He recalls what her grandmother once told him, how Chizuru struggles to accept her own weaknesses. But today, when she admitted she's not always strong, he proved her wrong. She's incredibly strong, maybe just 1% weak. And if she ever needs support, he wants to be the one she can lean on. Just when she prepares to leave, Kazuya calls out to her and asks if they can have lunch together. Kazuya asks Chizuru to have lunch with him, but the moment the words leave his mouth, her reaction makes him instantly regret it. Inside, he's already kicking himself. He overthinks everything, what it might have meant to her, how it might have sounded. For a second, he imagines Chizuru snapping at him, accusing him of overstepping. He can't even meet her eyes out of shame, but there's no taking it back now. Trying to play it off, he mumbles something about it being lunchtime anyway. Chizuru, unfazed, replies that it wouldn't be fair to her other clients. The words hit him like a cold splash of water. He forces a smile, nods, and says goodbye, doing his best to act unfazed even though her response stings more than he'd like to admit. As he walks away, Kazuya can't stop cringing at himself. The embarrassment clings to him like static. He imagines Chizuru maybe even regretting the whole meetup. Chizuru suddenly calls out and changes her mind. She says they might as well get lunch since it's a bit late and she's hungry too. Just like that, it's as if a bomb drops straight on Kazuya. Then, Chizuru takes out her phone, ready to search for a place to eat, but before she can get far, Kazuya stops her and volunteers to find one himself. With his ancient, cracked phone screen barely holding together, he scrolls through options, feeling the weight of the moment. Chizuru in his eyes is a certified hottie, someone who deserves 5-star treatment, not just a corner diner. He's determined to impress, but reality slaps back fast. The first place he calls is fully booked. The next is also full, and the one after that is the same. One by one, all his hopeful options crash and burn. Noticing his panic, Chizuru steps in and casually asks what's going on. Kazuya tries to keep it together, but before he can mumble another excuse, Chizuru already spots a nearby Caesarea. Kazuya blinks, surprised she's willing to settle for something so casual. But Chizuru simply says it's better to save for rainy days, and that's enough for her. While walking up the stairs, Chizuru recalls Yaemori telling her that Kazuya is in love with her. And the fact that he once called her his ideal girlfriend only deepens the thought. Meanwhile, Kazuya still can't wrap his head around the idea that she agreed to eat at such a humble spot. But as soon as they sit down, it becomes clear that Chizuru is already familiar with the place. She knows exactly what to order. Kazuya is stunned. He never imagined someone like her had been here before. Turns out it's a popular go-to for college students, so it's more surprising that he's never eaten there. Still, watching her order crab feels surreal. But when she confidently adds a glass of white wine to the mix, Kazuya completely loses it. For her, this is just a way to treat herself after a long week of work. Hearing that, Kazuya loosens up and decides to go with the flow, ordering a beer for himself. Still, part of him can't help but raise an eyebrow. Day drinking doesn't sit quite right with him. But thinking it's probably just a glass or two, he lets his worries slide for now. After an hour, it becomes obvious. Chizuru is tipsy. Her cheeks are flushed, her eyes a little hazy, and several empty wine glasses sit on the table. It's safe to say she's crossed into drunk territory. Out of nowhere, she squints at Kazuya's shirt and points at the writing on it. When he casually explains that it means fish in Italian and he got it from an aquarium shop, Chizuru bursts into laughter. She laughs so hard it echoes through the place. The joke isn't even that funny, but to her, it's comedy gold. Kazuya stares at her in confusion. Normally, Chizuru would never laugh this hard, especially over something this dumb. She pauses, tries to catch her breath, then breaks into another wave of uncontrollable giggles. And strangely, Kazuya finds it adorable. Soon she's laughing at the menu too, and Kazuya can't help but watch her with awe. It's like she's letting go, showing him a version of herself that's usually hidden behind her cool exterior. For a brief moment, Kazuya secretly wishes time would stop and Chizuru would stay like this a little longer. Kazuya feels like Chizuru is truly opening up, so he nervously asks if having lunch with him was a good idea. To his surprise, Chizuru confidently says yes, assuring him there's nothing to worry about. Then, without warning, she calls the waitress and orders 2 more slices of cake. Kazuya is stunned. He always thought someone like Chizuru would be strict about calories. But clearly, she's not in that mood today. She admits that ever since her grandmother passed, the grief hasn't really left her. Kazuya is stunned, hearing something so raw from Chizuru, a person who used to scold him at every turn, completely shakes him. He realizes she's finally letting her guard down, yet a question lingers in his mind. Does she have anyone she can truly be vulnerable with, like a boyfriend? Then, after another sip of wine, Chizuru suddenly drops the bomb. She bluntly asks if he's in love with her. The question is so unexpected that Kazuya instantly breaks into a cold sweat. He tries to play it cool, but Chizuru isn't blind. She's piecing things together. The ideal girlfriend he once described is clearly her. Even though Kazuya attempts to deny it, his flushed face gives everything away. Deep down, he knows what she's getting at. Maybe he sent those words out of pity back then, or maybe not, but Yamori said the same thing, so Chizuru's suspicions only grew stronger. The last time she asked, he gave a flat-out no, but this time, she wants to be sure. Because if there's one thing she knows, it's that dragging other people into this kind of emotional mess is the last thing either of them should do. Deep down, Kazuya knows he's in love with her, but finding the right words feels impossible. Just as he finally gathers the courage to confess, the waitress arrives and cuts him off, placing the desserts Chizuru ordered earlier. The moment slips away. Chizuru brushes off the question with a quick apology and suggests they finish the cakes and head home. As they walk back, Chizuru chats casually about how good the food was and how surprisingly nice the place turned out to be. But Kazuya isn't really listening. All he can think about is how 5 more seconds, just 5, would have been enough to say what he truly feels. Kazuya wonders if Chizuru's grandma ever learned the truth about them. But Chizuru never got the chance to ask. And even if she did, she could never bring herself to say it to her. Still, she holds no regrets. Carrying that secret helped her reflect on what she truly wanted, for herself and for her grandmother. Yet now, the truth feels heavier than ever. They can't confess it to Grandma Nagomi either. Kazuya, deeply moved, pauses before saying he'll take responsibility. He'll shield Chizuru from any blame. But how he's supposed to do that remains a mystery. Their agreement was always clear. She'd be his rental girlfriend just until he find a real one. As she climbs the stairs to her apartment, Chizuru urges Kazuya to find the best girlfriend soon, then bids him goodbye. Her words sting, he's just her next-door neighbor after all. But before she can fully enter her apartment, Kazuya shouts, saying he meant every word he said at the park. He's finally ready to confess his feelings. But once again, he's interrupted, this time by a loud car horn. It's Kibi and some of their other friends pulling up to pick him up for drinks. Frustrated, Kazuya yells at Kibi, clearly irritated, then looks back toward Chizuru's apartment, only to find that she's already gone inside. Kazuya can only scream into the road, full of regret over yet another missed opportunity. Meanwhile, inside her room, Chizuru takes off her sweater and lies on the bed. She stares at the ceiling, quietly wondering what Kazuya would have said at the cafe if the waitress hadn't cut him off. That night, Kazuya is out drinking with his friends, completely wasted. As they down beers, he finds himself caught up in the thought of asking a girl out, something that makes his friends immediately suspect he's cheating. They throw out all kinds of advice, but none of their ideas seem to land. They assume that since he already dated Chizuru once, he should know how to ask a girl out by now, except they don't know that all he ever did was press the confirm button. While his friends ramble on about random things, Kazuya's mind drifts back to Chizuru. He replays the moment at the cafe in his head, thinking that if she had actually heard what he was about to say, she might have punched him in the face. He imagines her overreacting and cutting ties with him altogether. That fear eats at him. Maybe it's for the best that he got interrupted. Still, he can't shake the feeling that he came so close to ruining everything. Kazuya starts acting strange, constantly regretting everything he almost said to Chizuru. Still, the desire to date her is eating him alive. He imagines her barely covered body and immediately scolds himself. There's no way someone like her could ever be his. But his heart refuses to let go. He wants to date her, desperately. Later that night, completely drunk, Kazuya gets unusually clingy with Kibi. That's when Kibi lets something slip. He casually mentions that he visited Grandma Nagomi the other day and happened to see Mami there. Apparently, she's now Nagomi's newest advisor. The words hit Kazuya like a truck. They've never even been properly introduced. How can they be exchanging advice? Kibi says they met through Twitter DMs. Something doesn't sit right with him. If that's the case, Kazuya suspects Mami might be planning something. Surprisingly, Kibi almost agrees with Kazuya's suspicion. However, he recalls their last conversation with Mami during his visit to Grandma Nagomi. According to Kibi, Mami was confident in giving advice. She suggested launching a dating app. With most senior citizens owning smartphones and the younger generation being app-savvy, her idea sounded promising. Even better, her solution was cost-effective, which immediately caught Grandma Nagomi's attention. Kazuya can't believe Mami is actually contributing something useful to the shop. Kibi, on the other hand, admits that her suggestions all made sense. Still, Kazuya isn't convinced. There's something unsettling about Mami teaming up with his grandmother. The next day, while at school, Kazuya tries contacting his grandma. Yet, he also remembers, Mami doesn't even know he and Chizuru have been seeing each other again. Distracted from his thoughts, Kazuya drops the textbook in his hand. Someone picks it up before he can react, and when he looks up, it's Mami. She tries to make small talk, but he jumps straight to the point and asks what's going on between her and his grandma. Mami explains she's recently gotten into sake, brushing it off while subtly touching Kazuya, which only makes him more uncomfortable. She insists everything is pure coincidence, but Kazuya doesn't buy it. Mami adds that her involvement with Grandma Nagoma helps with her grad thesis, so it's mutually beneficial. She even claims she never mentioned that she and Kazuya were exes. On the surface, Mami's intentions seem good, but Kazuya still doesn't trust her, and Mami can tell. As she walks away, she casually texts someone, his grandma. Walking through the hallway, Kazuya starts to wonder if maybe he's just overthinking. But then he spots Chizuru. Her two friends greet him, but she avoids eye contact and quickly walks away without a word. Kazuya is stunned. He thinks he should tell Chizuru about Mami. Meanwhile, while walking up the stairs, Chizuru's thoughts are still stuck on what Kazuya might have said if they hadn't been interrupted that day.